Today we're talking Week 11 college football best bets on Underdogs. Jake, so far on the season in these videos, you and I are a combined 84 and 70, which means we're plus 14 units so far.
And last week in this very Underdogs video, we went 5 and 6 against the spread with 4 outright underdog winners. Show me another channel on YouTube giving you that type of hits.
5 of 6 against the spread in an underdog video feels pretty damn good, especially when you have so many money line winners. Today we've got some other good picks. It starts off Northwestern at Wisconsin. Northwestern is getting 10.5 points, and this is a team that's been pretty surprising in a year where the program seemed like it was really messed up, especially since they had to get rid of Fitzgerald right before the season. They started off with wins over UTEP, Minnesota, and Maryland as dogs, and then they covered against both Nebraska and Iowa. And honestly, they had a shot to win both those games outright. Surprisingly, after their QB got hurt, Brendan Sullivan stepped up. He's been good enough at quarterback to get it out to the good receivers they have, and the defense isn't great, but the inside linebackers have been awesome, and they're doing just enough to keep the offense in it. So you look at the other side, Wisconsin's been so much worse than we expected them to be. Braylon Allen, Tanner Mordecai both got injured, didn't play last week, and as a favorite, they lost to IU outright. Even though they can still win the division, they're trending down at, I would say, the worst possible time. I already, as you know, hate giving points in Big Ten West games because usually any of these teams can win it. It's not like you say Northwestern's a 9-point dog and they don't have a chance. Every single team can win in the West because they're all, honestly, so damn bad. And that comes from a Nebraska fan. I'm not going to give points to Wisconsin when they're trending down this way, and Northwestern's looked good. So I feel obligated to take Northwestern, and I also think I have to sprinkle the money line here at plus 360.
Yeah, as an Indiana fan, I watched most of that Indiana-Wisconsin game last week. I was on Indiana in this video last week, and Wisconsin shouldn't be a 10.5-point favorite against anybody right now. Not even against, Sam Houston State, who's the worst team in the country. Wisconsin offense is just absolutely abysmal, as you said. They've got so many injuries. They're missing their quarterback, Braylon Allen, Ches Maluzzi, their other star running back who's in the season. Their production just, I don't know where it's going to come from. Northwestern, as you said, has been relatively solid. We both thought Northwestern would be an absolute dumpster fire because of their interim coach situation. Turns out that was Michigan State, and Northwestern is a little bit, they're not doing horrible under their interim coach. So I agree with you. 10.5 points is absurd for Wisconsin to be laying. I'll take that with anyone, even if it is Northwestern.
Well, here's one that doesn't make much sense to me. USC is at Oregon, and minus 15 seems disrespectful, even though obviously USC is totally done, and it doesn't look like they're going to bounce back anytime this year.
Yeah, USC getting 15 points is just disrespectful. It's like everyone saw Caleb Williams crying last week, and they said, this guy's ridiculous. He's done. He's cooked. He's a little pansy, but I think that Caleb Williams, is going to be incredibly motivated in this game. You're not crying like that if you're not passionate about the game and about your team. And I think that even though, as you said, USC is completely cooked, they're out of the playoff picture, or they're even out of like a Rose Bowl or, big time football game picture. I think that USC has some pride and they want to stay competitive. They fired their defensive coordinator, Alex Grinch, this past week. And I think that's going to be a huge sign for morale, addition by subtraction type of thing. Their defense was so bad that this move can only be good for them. And it's not like their offense was the issue in the first place. Yes, they only scored 20 points against Notre Dame and only 32 against Utah, but they've scored 40 plus against everybody else that they've played. I think they're going to do that against Oregon. Even though Oregon's D is good, USC's offense is still capable of putting up points. And I think that with the defensive improvements we should see this week, I just think that 15 points is incredibly disrespectful, and I'll take USC.
So last week I said I was going to ride Washington with you, and I had such a bad start to the day. I said, you know what? I can't take the team I think is going to win. I have to fade myself. So I took my money.
The Costanza strategy.
It was so dumb. I took my money off Washington, and then USC blows it for me. I was so frustrated. I mean, the whole weekend was just rough for me. I think they're done, and I think Caleb looks defeated, but I just think 15 points is wrong. I think it's disrespectful, and when you lose a coach that's as instrumental as defensive coordinator, who's honestly held this team back now for 2 years, it should boost the team's morale. Caleb should play pretty hard, and he should be playing excited because he knows he's good enough to win these games. It's just the team around him hasn't done it. So I'm going to probably lean USC here. I don't know if I'm going to take it, but this line does feel really messed up.
I mean, look at the Raiders in the NFL this past week. They fired their coach, bring in Antonio Pierce, who the players like a lot better. And what do? They win by 24 points. So
yeah, that's a great example. Well, two teams with no coaching issues. Ole Miss is at Georgia. Georgia has to give 11 points. A&M gave Ole Miss a scare, but it was a look-ahead spot to this week, and Kiffin still managed to keep his guys focused on the task at hand, and they ended up winning that game by 3. There was a push. I had it money line, so it all worked out. Georgia had to fight off Mizzou, who played their best game and pushed them to the limit, but most important, Georgia did not cover. They ended up winning that game by 9. They couldn't cover the 14. Now, Ole Miss believes they can win this game, and I think they believe more than Missouri did. I think they're just a better team overall. I think getting 11 points here is plenty for an offense as electric as what Kiffin brings to the table. And I know Alabama's D locked Jackson Dart down and held him to only 1 TD, but they learned from that game, and the very next week, they came out and put, I think, 55 points up on LSU. Georgia has to play other teams' Super Bowls every single week, and doing it back-to-back weeks against two teams who actually are really good, I think just wears you down. I'm going to take Ole Miss in the points here.
Yeah, that point you made about Georgia having to face a Super Bowl level of competition every single week is so true. They're back-to-back undefeated national champions. Every single team is desperate to be the one to knock them off. Especially Ole Miss. They're only a game back from Alabama in making it to that SEC championship game. So if they could beat Georgia here, now granted, they don't have to beat Georgia necessarily to make it. Alabama could still lose 2 games, but with only 3 to go, probably unlikely. So this is a huge opportunity for Ole Miss to make it to that SEC championship game. I don't think they're going to get the win here, but as you said, 11 points is too many here when they're going to be focused. They've got a great run game, and I think that they're going to be very motivated to get the win. So I'll take Ole Miss plus 11 with you. I think that's a smart pick.
Talking about another team that was a dog last week, a dog again this week. You won on this one at plus 9.5. Now they're getting 7 at Illinois.
The sad reality of being an Indiana Hoosier fan is we are a dog most weeks. It is what it is, but Indiana's used to playing in that position, and Indiana's been a pretty strong team against the spread this season, especially when we're playing big-time opponents like the Ohio States, Penn States, Michigan, even Wisconsin last week. That teams where our defense steps up the most. I'm not saying Illinois is a big-time opponent, but Indiana is now in a spot where if they win their next 3 games, they will make a bowl game. And against Illinois, Michigan State, and Purdue, that's a very feasible schedule to get the job done. I know it's not the best strategy for teams to be looking ahead and looking at the schedule. You really want to focus on going 1-0 every single week. But Tom Allen, fighting for his job. He's been on the hot seat all season long. The defense is still playing really, really well. And Illinois' offense is not good enough, I think, to get up multiple touchdowns on this IU team. I'm taking Indiana plus the points here, and I think they have a chance to win money line.
Yeah, Illinois had a crazy final drive to beat Minnesota last week, and they're getting better with less turnovers, so I'm nervous about this one, but I'd rather have the points here. Last week I told you I was going to take Indiana with you, and I made the mistake of not putting it in when I thought I did, so after my day was already rough, I didn't get a win that I thought I had already placed, so that was frustrating. I'm going to ride them this week because I made the mistake last week, so I owe it to Indiana to take a shot on them. Moving on from your team to my team, Maryland is at Nebraska. Nebraska getting 2.5 points at home. Last week was a mess if you watched the Michigan State game. The refs blew way too many calls and replay completely messed up their job. Obviously, Harburg missed a bunch of throws, had too many turnovers, and that cost him the game. But without the bad reffing and the inexcusable non-replay checks, this line would be flipped and Nebraska would have won that game. Maryland started off hot, but they lost to Northwestern and Illinois in the last few weeks after they started off 5-0. So trusting them to get back to how they looked in September just feels sketchy at this point. I really like their QB. They have good running backs, but they haven't been able to put it all together and come out with a win in over a month. I know Nebraska got caught asleep at the wheel, but they're still just 1 game away from bowl eligibility, and they're back at home, so I'm going to have to take the points. The real value here is obviously the money line play. Nebraska's 2-1 coming off a loss, and I think this is going to be a chance for them to get to 3-1. And the big stat against the spread, as a dog, Nebraska's 3-1 in the Big Ten. But as a favorite, they suck, and they're only 1-3 overall in those games. So the point is, bet Nebraska as a dog, stay far away when they're a favorite.
Nebraska's defense has been awesome this year. They're a top 25 unit overall, with the strength being the run D. That's kind of an issue going against Maryland, who loves to throw the ball. I think Nebraska is going to be able to get plenty of stops this game. So I think the real question is, how is Heinrich Haarberg going to respond? How is the Nebraska offense going to respond? I think that Nebraska is going to go to a heavy run set. As you said, Haarberg was not making a lot of the throws that he needed to make. Yes, the refs absolutely stole that game from Nebraska last week, but you can only control what you can control. And at the end of the day, Nebraska is a far better team when they run the rock, especially with that quarterback in option games. And I would love to see them do more of that this game. I'm probably going to stay away from the spot because I feel like Nebraska is such a hard team to read. You never really know how they're going to do on offense. But I think that at home as a dog is the right spot.
You know, you mentioned the defense. Last week, Michigan State has one of the best defenses that they've had to face in the past few weeks. And because of that, they altered their game plan a little bit. So I do expect them to go back to that heavy run game. And I don't think Maryland's going to be able to stop it. Last is Baylor at Kansas State. Funny line, 20.5 points. I know you like Kansas State.
I do like Kansas State as a team in general, but I'm actually on Baylor in this spot. I think it's just too many points to give to Baylor. They've been pretty disappointing this season, but they've only lost by 22 times against Texas and Texas Tech. Kansas State does have an elite offense, but they haven't been able to get it going this year as much as I thought they were going to. I think Kansas State is a really well-coached team. I think they're a really strong team. But Baylor getting disrespected in the spot, Dave Aranda is a good enough coach that 20 points, especially when they have relative healthiness from their star quarterback, from relative other positions, this is just a pure spread play here. I think that Baylor getting 20 is just completely absurd.
Yeah, we both really like taking Kansas State. That's why this feels funny to me because I would always lean them over Baylor, but 20.5 is too many. Baylor's been garbage. Dave Aranda's tanking, and they couldn't even beat Houston at home last week. But why is Kansas, who's playing the best football they have, having to lay this many points in a Big 12 game? It just feels like too many. So I know Texas put up 38, Texas State put up 42, and Texas Tech, I think, put up 40 on them. But I just think Baylor can score enough, and I'm going to have to take 20.5 here with you.
Yeah, Kansas State has been awesome on offense recently. 3 consecutive games have been in the 30s, but I think that Baylor is going to be able to put up points as well. So Kansas State would have to get 45 points in this game to cover, and I don't think they're going to do it.
Well, if you want to take any of the plays that we've talked about today, you can see on the screen, it's plus 20.5 or minus 20.5 at plus 100 odds, which means if you bet $20, you'll win $20. You don't pay a vig. You can sign up to play on BroThrow for free in the description box below. It's brothrow.com/YouTube, or when you go to BroThrow, you just enter promo code YouTube to sign up for free. That's where Jake and I make all of our picks. You get better odds on the money line, better odds, obviously, on total in the spread than you can find anywhere else. So BroThrow is a great place to play. I can advocate for it. And I've made a ton of videos on this channel where you can learn more about how to use the platform and what it's all about. But Jake, I'm excited for our picks this week. I think we've made some good ones, and we can get back to a similar record that we had last week in our Underdogs video.
Let's keep it rolling. Could be a great week 11.
I'll talk to you soon.